Welcome everyone, Costin here with a quick discussion about Kislev in Total War Warhammer 3 now that patch 2.2 has come out. Have they fixed the Kislev issues? No. Is their situation better or worse? Worse, actually. Quite a bit worse than it was before patch 2.2. For all the so-called improvements, Kislev's situation is actually going to end up worse. It is actually because of those improvements that their situation is worse, but let me explain. So what did they change for Kislev? Well, they did two big things, I feel, for Kislev directly. First off, they made it so that the initial armies that Catherine has to deal with from the Norskundens over here that hold the Southern Oblast, they lose their mammoths, they get Marauder hunters. So they're much easier to deal with, but those were never really the big issue for a Kislev campaign. In fact, sure, they were annoying to deal with the mammoths, but those were the least of your concerns. Did they fix all the enemies that Catherine or Castalton have to deal with? No. Did they give Kislev the tools in terms of economy or being able to acquire devotion? No. Did they make the supporter system less of an annoyance? No. All they did was change those two armies and also reduce the cost of upgrading the Erengrad port. Though in this case, in this particular campaign, it looks like Castalton is going to be dying very shortly here because he's got a lot of things coming his way. He's got the full stack of Azazel. Erengrad has already been taken out, has been sacked already, and you've also got Fraught and his entire armies coming down. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing when it comes to it. Creative Assembly has done several things that, in the end, when you are playing Kislev as either Catherine or Castalton, not as Boris does not care. But if you're playing as Catherine or Castalton, things are actually going to end up worse. First off, let's talk about the minor settlements. So, unless you have a garrison building at the moment in a minor settlement, you will not get a minor settlement battle. And although that's overall, for pretty much everyone else, a great change, because let's be quite blunt about it, they sucked. They still suck when you still get them, because you can still get them if an enemy has a garrison building. They're still pretty terrible. But although that is a vast and genuine improvement, although I'm not quite sold on the idea, it's like, oh yeah, let's just reduce the frequency. It's like, can you fix them, Creative Assembly? Apparently not. Anyway, what has to be said when it comes to it, though, is if you're playing Kislev, you could certainly take advantage of the minor settlement situation. How? Because as an attacker with minor settlements, you had an enormous number of advantages. And one of the things I was doing as Catherine when I was trying to play her campaign is I would get an army. I would have Fraught take out the Druzina Enclave over here and have an army in the settlement, right? And then I would attack the settlement, and because the AI is dumb as bricks when it comes to defending a settlement, I would be able to wipe out his entire army with ease with minimal casualties. That no longer works because it's an open field battle. Don't get me wrong, the change is very welcome, but it does highlight an issue that Kislev has. Because you could beat the Fraught, and I still can, don't get me wrong, though it is more difficult than before because you actually have to fight the proper open field battle. And by the way, speaking about Skaven, one of the things that's mentioned in the patch notes is that the Skaven, basically the way I read it at least, is that the Skaven would recruit less armies of Skaven slaves. Well, one of the things I can say is that is bullshit. I'm pretty certain, like, Fraught is obviously here in one of those elements, so that's one army, a full stack. Then you have another stack over here, and that's all I can see. So he's likely at turn 11 at 2 full stacks, 2.5 really, of troops already on the campaign map. Now on top of that, one of the major changes that they've implemented, and again, all of this is positive changes, like they've changed the AI, they've changed the AI declaring war on the player, they've changed the aggressiveness of the AI, they've made the AI more difficult. But that's the problem. The AI is smarter, it's less stupid, it's more likely to attack settlements and to pick and choose fights where it actually can win. Okay, And instead of just constantly running away at the first chance of resistance, spending a lot of time besieging a settlement when they could just literally take it in a single turn. The problem is, with that, is even with the previous AI, with all the things you could exploit, Kislev's campaign was already hell. Now it's significantly worse because, again, you don't have the tools. You don't really have the powerful economy to maintain the very large number of armies that you need to deal with all these threats. You've got a lot of enemies. You also have a major issue with invocations because you can't really gain devotion from anyone other than the Chaos factions. And if you're playing as Catron, you're going to spend a lot of time actually fighting bloody Skaven. Yes, Skaven. So that is a problem, as I see it. Like, I don't understand at least why Skaven wouldn't give you devotion, since, you know, they are a Chaos faction in their own right. But, okay. And Frat ruining the party for Catron, well, he's been doing that since the Realms of Chaos, regardless. So certainly some major issues exist for Kislev. Another problem is with the invocations themselves. They change nothing with them. Their cost still increases the more territory you have, and getting devotion is very difficult unless you're constantly non-stop fighting warriors of chaos or demons of chaos. This is why Boris is by far in a way the best legendary lord of Kislev, because he can avoid that situation where he's fighting a lot of enemies that aren't giving him devotion. Now, granted, he still would, if you are playing him, he still would fight a lot of enemies that wouldn't give him devotion, but he also has a lot of enemies that would. Now, what should Creative Assembly do with respect to this? Well, first off, Catron needs a better army. Kostaltin potentially needs a better army. The minor settlement that Kislev have should be incorporated into larger provinces or improved upon in some way, because right now a lot of these minor settlements are worthless unless we're talking about just increasing the available atamans for Kislev. That's the only real purpose. They won't generate a lot of income. They're minor settlements. They're very vulnerable. They're not worth it. In fact, in a campaign as Catron, the one I streamed, I was basically down to Prague and Kislev as cities themselves, and I was doing quite well with that. It didn't matter that I didn't control these minor settlements that are that inconsequential. They should be more consequential, I feel, when it comes to Kislev. And I guess one of the big problems with Kislev is that they should be a defensive-oriented faction, but they don't have a defensive-oriented campaign like the Wood Elves do, for instance. Because the Wood Elves really do have a defensive-oriented campaign as opposed to the way Kislev currently plays. And when it comes to devotion, yeah, a lot more factions should be giving you devotion because the cost of devotion actions is very high. And the thing is, devotion isn't just used for incantations or building churches. It's also used for these special structures in Kislev, Prague, and Erengrad. They do cost a substantial amount of devotion to actually build, and they are actually quite important for you to get. One of the solutions I found is to get a mod that I've installed over here and have been using it as part of this campaign. A mod that when you fight the battle against a non-chaos faction, you still get devotion. It's just basically called devotion from everything. I'll post a link to it in the description of this video. I might have to update my early campaign guide for Catron, because certainly things have changed in a fairly substantial manner compared to where they were before. The AI behaving in a far more intelligent manner as opposed to a stupid manner, that's one of the things that really makes it much more difficult to play a Kislev campaign than it was before. You know what's irritating to me is, like, when I'm reading the patch notes and I'm reading what Creative Assembly has done, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, so there are three big factions that have a lot of issues right now in the game. There's the Dwarves, there's the Empire, and then there's Kislev. Did they fix any of those? No. No, they did not. Yes, they gave Karl France over here The AI improvements have really helped the Imperial AI. The Electro counts are significantly less useless than they were before. I've actually seen Festus being wiped out in campaigns, which he should, really, because, I mean, he's surrounded by a lot of hostile factions. He absolutely should be wiped out. So I've seen Festus being wiped out. I've seen the Imperial accounts being wiped out, being far more useful than they were before, all that good stuff. They gave some improvements to Karl Franz in the sense that now now at the moment, as things currently stand, he's gaining more prestige, he's got diplomatic relations, and he has replenishment in neutral territory, which means he can replenish the electro-count territory. But that's only for his army. Still a lot of problems with that. A lot of problems with the Empire, with the Imperial Authority system. They just threw a bit of a band-aid on it. It helps, don't get me wrong, it does, but it's like insignificant compared to the larger issues that do exist. The dwarves have poor growth and poor, many issues when it comes to their campaigns, like a poor economy, poor growth, unit roster that genuinely needs more units added to it. They absolutely need a replenishment here, for instance, because that is a major problem that they're currently facing. And do you know what Creative Assembly did? Did they touch the dwarves? Did they touch the Empire? Did they really improve Kislev? No. They improved Skaven. They made some fairly significant changes to the Dark Elven economies. Now, and my only reaction to that can only be, especially now that I've played it, and I'm not just reading some patch notes, my only reaction to that is, how in the world did the Skaven or the Dark Elves, two races that are in a really good spot, I mean, yeah, Skaven have some issues, okay, but instead of fixing the Empire or Kislev or the Dwarves, they fixed Treach, Raventail, and Queek. I mean, I get it, they were kind of weak, but it's like, did they really need that priority fixing? Did the Dark Elves, who are bloody amazing at the moment in a lot of ways, fitting that middle ground between being too powerful and too weak, did the Dark Elves, the freaking Dark Elves, did the Dark Elves need a patch? Or did Kislev, the Empire, the Dwarves, among other factions, let's be clear, because there's other factions that have issues, did those need improvements? I don't understand the priority here. Really. I mean, forget, and of course there's the Demon Prince, who's still screwed over. There's a lot of factions that are screwed over. Now, people say, oh, a developer can't please me. Well, my reaction to that, if a developer has several months, or has plenty of time, it's been 2 months, or close to 2 months, right? And in that time, they should have been aware that these issues exist, that Kislev, Empire, Dwarves, some other factions are screwed. And instead, they go meme around and fix Raventail, improving his situation. Now, don't get me wrong, he needed some changes, but was that really a priority? Or was fixing Kislev's entire campaign situation, or should that have been a priority? I know what the answer is from my perspective, but apparently Creative Assembly has different priorities. I mean, we've seen Creative Assembly being playing favorites with the Skaven before, but damn, it sure sucks when you have it play out in front of you like that. That's all I had to say. Costin here signing out. There's some mods that do help the experience, specifically a mod that gives you devotion from every source. Who knows, maybe they'll do the same thing with that as they did with the grudge system. Because you know what they did with the grudge system for the dwarves? It's like, oh, they fixed the grudge system. Yeah, they fixed the grudge system in a similar manner to what mods had already been doing. Maybe, who knows, maybe that's exactly what Creative Assembly is going to do when it comes to when it comes to Kislev. They'll take a mod that gives you devotion from more sources, or from everything, and put that as the baseline to Kislev. That's what we might expect from them. Stay tuned for more, everyone.